Wait, I didn't know that he wanted to be a secret agent. Is that true?
Well, I don't know if that's true.
Oh, you're making stuff up about him now.
I don't
Let's
know.
get to Ryan Day. Let's talk a little
That
Ryan
was
Day
a big
and NIL.
story that year
Got to keep
after.
you guys on track today.
I don't know if that's true enough. Go ahead, Ryan Day.
Did he not say he wanted to be a secret agent?
Yes, that was the
did.
story. I don't know for 100% sure it's true.
All right, let's talk college
goodness,
football. What a
goodness.
mess they've made of this
mess.
whole thing. So Ryan Day, if you haven't been following this, Ryan Day did something late last week that if he had done it 2 years ago, he would have been banished from college football forever. I mean, remember what we did to Jim Tressel?
For pants?
For nothing. He called 100 members of the OSU football community, big money people in Columbus. He brought them all together, and he basically told them, here's what we need from you. $13 million to pay our players. If we don't get that, it's going to be impossible to keep our roster intact. $13 million. Now, last year, OSU athletes combined made $3.5 million in NIL deals. That number, by the way, is going to be dwarfed every year moving forward. But here's part of what Ryan Day had to say to this 100-people panel from Ohio State. One phone call and they're out the door. We cannot let that happen at Ohio State. I'm not trying to sound the alarm. I'm just trying to be transparent about what we're dealing with. So, guys, that number, that 13 million number, some look at that and say, you're not going to put a team together for 13 million.
Yeah.
Texas A&M, and McNuggets knows this because he was just working there not long ago. I've heard estimates that their pool for players is 30 million. Is that about right?
There's no official number on exactly what they've raised, but I can tell you it's a lot of money in the pockets from the oil donors down in Texas.
Yeah.
Run very, very deep.
Why does anybody
30
have a
million
problem
was
with
the
any
money
of this?
that
I don't understand.
No,
It's been thrown
I don't think,
around
I
there,
don't
but
think
that's not
anybody has a
official.
problem with it.
Yeah.
It's just so jarring to me that that's where we are. Because, again, 2 years ago,
Right.
could you imagine a head coach
I
standing in
couldn't
front of
have.
a bunch of boosters and saying, guys, we need 13 mil to pay
I
our
couldn't
guys?
know, but the guys that are making the money for college football are actually making money now. It's good.
Sure. No, I mean,
I
it's
got zero
good,
problem with
but
it. There should be
Bull,
no caps, no nothing to me.
Well, aren't we going to, Brad, have a haves and have-nots?
We already
Have-nots?
do.
And but the haves are going to be a handful.
So
But they already are.
You have to, first of all,
Yeah.
you have to look at who's getting this money, right? So
Yeah.
most of them getting peanuts. Peanuts. You
Well,
may get some. You may
the
get some to
average.
get.
He said to keep our quarterbacks,
But they were
it's gonna cost
getting
us $2
nothing,
million.
so who cares?
Hold on. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
I care, right? Because
Tell us why we should care.
Because it goes back to this. How much money are you going to deprive everybody? How much money are you making here, right? Because now instead of you talk collective bargaining and bringing the thing together, you have to show me the books here, right? Because most players, Bull, they're not looking for $1 million, right? They were just looking for a way to sustain themselves while they were there,
Sure,
right? So they've done everything but try to circumvent the actual fact of saying, let's put a deal together that works in the best interest of everybody. And I understand you got money-making sports and non-money-making sports, and you want to take care of everybody. I get that, right? But you have to bring both groups together to try to figure out this way. Now we're going to do what? We're going to prostitute the industry now. Like, I'm going to go to all my boosters and give me a pool of money.
He's not the only one.
Right,
doing
but here, I'm not just saying Ohio State. This thing is happening across. It's like a snowball.
Saban did it at Alabama.
It's just going, right? Is this what we want? Is this?
That's why it's
Is
a
this what
topic.
we
Well,
want?
not
I don't
who
want that.
cares.
Well, no, but I
Brad
don't
poses
understand
the
who's
question
being
of
hurt.
this
I'm a
discussion.
player.
Is this what
I'm
we
a
want?
player, and I don't want it, right?
Why?
I don't want it like that.
Why not?
Right? Because it's not fair, right? In order for it to be fair, I have to know what the intake is. You still can't tell me what Ohio State is taking in. You can't tell me what Michigan taking in.
Nobody knows.
Right? No, they know.
They know, but
They
we don't.
know.
We don't.
So if you saw that number and the players saw what the number was, the athletes saw what the number was, you think they would have something to say about it? Like, wait a minute, you throwing me some peanuts. Because here, I looked at the NCAA women's basketball NIL deals, right? They ain't get no money. That's not any money. Right?
Some of them are very little numbers.
Even the best person not making any real money, right?
But, Brad, they were making nothing. What do you want to happen?
Here,
I don't.
I want some equity here, right? That's what I want. Some
Yeah.
equity here to a degree, right? I'm not saying you make what the university makes, but I tell you this: there's some athletes out here that garner the big money because
So you're talking about a split between the schools and the players.
You're
Right.
saying you want players to get paid by the school?
Then you have to take the best players because they have an extra opportunity, right? So we're not going to negate that opportunity, right? You're throwing the person at the bottom peanuts and kibbles and bits, right? Take your 200, take your 500, be happy, right? Why are you making it in billions? But you won't tell me you're making it in billions, right? You won't tell me that, Jay. Right?
Jason's got something to say. I can feel it.
Well, no, there's so much to unpack here. Number one, if we're going to do this, then we just got done talking about a mentorship program for NFL players and NBA players. Well, now you're handing 18 and 19-year-old kids $1 million or more if they're the elite of the elite. We have to have some sort of infrastructure in place or these kids are going to implode. That's number one. Number two, I think the salary cap in all these sports is to protect the owners from other owners so that people don't go crazy. Right. That's really what it is.
Sure.
And that's why I think we're eventually going to need here so that the oil money in Texas doesn't overcome all of the rest of the country. Because the oil money in Texas, they can buy whoever they want.
Who cares? But I don't care.
Well,
I think the kids.
Well,
I
think
think
you would
I
care
care.
if 4 years from now, if the 4 teams that were in the BCS playoffs
Texas
were
Tech,
Texas
Texas
A&M, Texas
But we
Tech.
only have 4 teams in the play. Same 4 teams.
I know,
in the
but
playoff
Bull,
now anyway.
Bull, the idea
Oregon's
now
got a
is-
ton of money. Ohio State's got a ton of money.
The point is,
Yeah.
nobody has the oil money.
Then why
There
weren't
are
Texas
so-
getting good players before when they were all paying under the table?
Well, because it wasn't open and out and free for everybody to do. There were some rules that they had to follow. Were those rules skirted? Of course they were. But you weren't giving players Lamborghinis. One of these players, is it Tech? One of the players has a deal with Lamborghini.
So,
I'll look it up. I'm not quite
so
sure.
we want to do something just because we don't like the teams?
No,
that are gonna have the
that's
advantage?
not true at all.
So to
We
Jason-
need equity.
Here, so to Jason's point, let's talk to Jason's point. Talk about because you're talking about 18, 19-year-olds, right? And I can speak to. I have one who has
University of Texas running back has a
I have
Lamborghini.
one at Maryland that has NIL deals, right?
Yeah.
And her mother and I, we have to manage this. We have to manage her money.
Sure.
Right? Because I look at what the hell you get them new Jordans from? Where you get this thing from? Oh, no, you send that money on home, right? Because if you leave it untethered, right, they don't know what to do.
Absolutely.
They do not
Well, that's
know what
Jason's
to do.
point,
They
and
have
that's
no
the
idea what
point,
to do.
I think.
And if I'm not sitting there, and Kim Sellers is not sitting there to say, "Oh no, Cheyenne, you send that over here," right?
And
Because-
how many of these kids have that?
and
The
not
majority
many,
of the
Very
not
few.
majority
many,
of them
Very
do
few.
not.
Very
Not
few.
many.
Why don't we have a salary cap in tennis and golf then for the 18?
Well, I think what you're getting conflated. I think
Yeah.
the problem is Jason's point of if you're going to start giving an 18-year-old running back in Texas a Lamborghini,
Yeah.
and you don't see anything wrong with that. I think what we're talking about is parameters.
Yes.
You can't.
Well, then the
have,
NCAA should have made parameters for the last 40 years.
well, they don't
Well,
want
listen.
to because they're not going to show you the books.
And even to your point,
Yeah.
it's better that they're doing it now. But what they did was they just said floodgates open, wild, wild west, go have at it.
Right.
And that is going to
That's
lead
not
to all
sustainable.
kinds of
But
it's not
unintended
sustainable.
But I don't think they're doing it,
and
Jay.
you know what? It's not sustainable, and they know that.
Yeah.
Change is coming. They're
Jay,
gonna fix
I don't
this.
think they're doing it. I think they're doing it by hook or crook because they are being forced to do it, right? There
Sure.
has to be some parameters put in place here, right? But in order to have proper parameters, you have to bring parties to the table.
Well, I just read an article this morning that said these NIL deals that are going to be contested will go down one after another after another. In other words, like the SEC is, I think they're going to be most impacted by this as a conference, but I think what we're going to see is these Texas schools are going to become the Yankees, but in a way that we don't even see, like the Yankees and the Dodgers
Right.
haven't pulled away from the pack. In college football, I think the structure of the sport is if you have unlimited funds to pay these players, if they have a $30 million pool, and most of the other universities have fewer than a $3 million pool, the disparity is
Right.
going to be so great that in the interest of competitive balance,
Yep.
you can't have that, Bull.
But Jay, we have no competitive balance now. I just don't see it's just different schools that are going
There
to have
are
the
rules
advantage.
now that create parameters. Like right now, the advantage that most schools have is tradition-based, right? If you're Ohio State, if you're Texas, if you're Florida.
So why are we okay with tradition-based huge advantages and not money-based huge advantages?
Because the problems that are going to come along with
Yeah.
with no limits to this spending, I think you're going to blow up the old model of whatever there is some competitive balance. Every year, if you can tell me 2 teams that are going to win the national championship and you're right every year, I'll tell you, well, then there's no competitive balance.
But there isn't. It's always the same teams pretty much in college football.
It is Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, but you couldn't tell me going into last year who was definitively going to win.
But I can tell you 100 teams that have no chance to win.
Well, yes,
every
and
year.
that's always
Yeah.
going to be the case, even with the NIL
Right.
money. But what you're going to have is it's a spending contest, And the reason Nick Saban is seeing red in Alabama is because he knows that despite their vast system of boosters and alums, they can't compete with Exxon money or
Right, but
Texas
why would
oil
anybody
money.
be sympathetic to Nick Saban?
Nobody is.
Yeah.
Nobody is. I'm looking at the game, and I think that's what you're looking at too. Like, if the sport becomes college basketball, to me has fallen so far off my radar. I think a lot of people will tell you it's not what it used to be because you can't follow the players.
Right.
They're in, they're out, and now they're transferring, and you're like, wait, you need a syllabus to keep up with all this. I just think that college football is going to become college basketball part 2 if there's no limits put on it soon.
To your point, you know what's coming next? I'll tell you what's coming next. Someone's going to sue the NFL, and they're going to win this time. I know you had Maurice Clarett on the show.
1,000% right.
The NFL has no grounds to stand on anymore.
It's stunning to me that Clarett's case was overturned.
I know, I agree. But
it wasn't based in law.
But a lot has changed in the last 20 years. The next person who challenges the NFL,
they're going to play at 19.
And they will play. They will get in whenever they want to get in.
That's coming.
That's what's coming next.
Yep.
And that will make college football
that
more
will
irrelevant.
really.
But I got no problem with that either.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either.
No.
And I'm all for capitalism. Make as much as you can.
I'm for capitalism too, but if you're trying to protect the sport of college football, I think they should look at college basketball as the cautionary tale.
Yeah.
And I think that my fear is 10 years from now, because everybody will tell you college football will look nothing like it does now, but I don't think it will be ever as popular as it's been the last decade.
There's no money in college basketball like there is in college football, right? So college football is going to put everybody to shame. But I would tell you this. Everybody is not going to college looking for money, for an NIL deal.
No.
Some are looking for just the experience, right?
And the education.
And the education. That's what it is. And say, give me a little bit of money so I can sustain myself.
But these rules don't stop anybody from doing
It does, because now it shifts the thing. Now, here, let me just tell you something. If they flood all the money to Texas, where do you think a lot of people want to go? I'm just going to go to Texas, right? I'm going to go make this money here, right? Because it creates an unfair competitive advantage for those that can put these pools together, right? And that's what people don't like, right? Ohio State is asking for, here, we're bringing 100 people together and say,
pass the hat.
Imagine if you're Toledo or Bowling Green. What are you gonna, we need 13,000 to keep this thing afloat.
And by the way, Ohio State.
And he said this. I'm not trying to sound an alarm.
Yeah, I know he
Tell
did.
me what the deal is.
Well, whenever they tell you it's not about the money,
It's about the money.
it's about the money.
Ohio State can get way more than 13 million.
Right.
By the way.
Listen, when I heard
Way
that
more
number,
than
I
13
thought
million. That's not very
they'll
high.
find that in their couch.
Yeah.
They'll find that in their sofa.
I'm okay with
and
the salary cap as long as there's a salary cap on coaches' salaries too. Then it's fine.
It's a totally different subject. Because
But why?
Because what you're looking at now, what you're facing now, is if you have 5 or 6 schools in Texas that are just outspending everyone else.
Yeah.
When you see, and you're not a big college football guy, so I don't really, I'm not going to discount your comments, but you've never grown up with college football as a big
But
part of
if
your
Ohio
life.
State was one of the 5 teams spending the most money, nobody here would care.
I would care.
Maybe you would,
I
but
would
most
care.
people wouldn't.
Well, maybe most people wouldn't, but maybe most people should
Because
because
Ohio State
the
already
sport
has
is
an
about
advantage
to
over
Ohio
cannibalize
State's
itself.
not going to spend the most money. They're just not. That's
No,
not
Ohio
who
State can't.
They would never. It's not in their DNA. That's not what they do, right?
No.
They play the
I
role
think-
like they will, but
Brad,
they're not going to do it.
Let me make a statement, and you tell me if I'm completely wrong. I think that when the NIL topic was first broached, the universities were like, wow, does this let us off the hook? Because we're going to a pay-for-play model, and now we don't have to write the checks.
Right.
Let's let Bob's Buick write the checks.
Right.
But now that they've seen it unfold, they're like,
Wait a minute.
what the hell just happened?
We've-
Am I wrong?
Well,
That's in their own selfish interest.
but we've
Sure
already,
it is.
I forget who it. I think it was Gene Smith already hinted that maybe college football
did.
should
Yeah.
separate from the NCAA.
Yes, he did.
And I think we're going to see that. And
That's what's coming.
And when football separates from the NCAA is when they're going to go under this whole mode of salary cap or whatever it is. I don't know what the answer is.
It's a professional sport.
It
Then they got to
kind-
get paid.
And I think that they're
It is
trying,
now.
They're trying to
Yeah.
build the plane and
is.
slide at the same time. But this current system is not sustainable. It's untenable.
So, Jason, what corrects that?
Rules.
Correct the rules,
Some parameters.
and the negotiation between all parties.
Yeah, you want the books. You want want these universities.
So we have to work out a deal here
Yeah.
that we all can survive on, right?
Yeah.
Because right now it's just here. Whoever's the highest bidder, that's where we're going, right? That's why you read these transfer deals. Guys who was fully submitted at a university said, "Oh, got a call. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
I'm leaving," and then go back and threaten you, like
Yeah.
you don't give me.
Well, let's reconvene in the year 2032.
Isn't that what
And
coaches do? Isn't that what coaches currently
Yes,
do?
it is what coaches do.
Yeah.
And for the most part, there's only a handful of them that have really monopolized that. But
Yeah.
these guys have no problem leaving 85 kids in their dust
Exactly.
to pick up a couple extra $1 million somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, Kelly just left a great situation at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Right.
Wasn't good enough. So
Right.
we went to LSU where the grass was literally greener with green as in
Yeah.
money. Let's reconvene in 2032 if we continue to have these NILs like Wild Wild West, and we'll talk about what's happened to the popularity of football over the last college football over the last 10 years. I do not want to see that college football become college basketball. I feel that's my fear.
Yeah.
If there was some equity out here, you'd see less players jumping around here. Because
So
some
when
places,
you say equity, let me ask you this. Do you mean all Division I athletes that play football get a $6,000 a month stipend?
I think there has here. I feel for the people that don't make any, and our own scholars that don't make any money. There's a pool of money being made here. NCAA basketball tournament pays for all the entire sports, NCAA sports except for college football, right? And that money gets spread around.
Sure.
You have to take the pool of money and figure out what kind of stipends are actually out here. If you put a person in a place where they were comfortable staying, they enjoyed the school, enjoyed their friendship, and they had just enough money to make it, right? I mean, I talk about $1 million, right? That $1 million person gonna be the $1 million person wherever they go. But somebody say, for $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for the year, I'm good.
Sure.
I'm good.
I think
want to stay right
95%
here.
of them would be thrilled with that setup.
I'll stay right here, right? And that'll stop all this
But I
jumping
still
around.
think the kids that could get the $1 million, the few kids that
I think
should have the right to do it.
No, I agree with you. I
Yeah.
think they're in a class by themselves. And
Yeah, and by the way,
they're few and far
there's only a
between.
handful of
Right.
these kids.
Right.
That's right.
I mean, there's one Lamborghini deal that I've heard of. That's the running back at Texas.
Yeah.
Ohio State estimates that to keep their quarterback, they need $2 million. He said the price for an offensive lineman, a top-tier offensive lineman, and a top-tier pass rusher, $1 million.
This is crazy. This
Can you
sounds
believe
crazy.
that?
This
It
sounds
does
crazy.
sound crazy.